Right, hello again, brothers and students. Right, on the GCSE exam paper, there's going to be a number of theories that may be referred to in questions, potentially quite tricky theories as well. So this short presentation is looking at a very popular two theories referred to in a lot of past exam papers, which is Malthus and Boserup, and that links to the consuming resources topic on Unit 2. So, moving on. Firstly, these are the two people. What lovely people we have here. We have Thomas Malthus, alright, clearly brown bred, died in 1834, living quite a long time ago. More recently, we've got Ester Boserup, right, born in 1910, died just before the millennium. A common mistake that students make is that they assume Boserup is a man. It's not. Ester Boserup is clearly a woman, so please bear that in mind. Malthus, man, Boserup, woman. Okay, thanks for that. Right, moving on. So, what were they thinking of? Well, Malthus was a bit of a pessimist. He had a very pessimistic view. It was a kind of like we're all doomed type thing, right? He believed that basically, in simple terms, that population growth would outstrip food supply, right? So basically, simply, population grew exponentially, so it goes 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, whereas food production grows arithmetically, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there comes a point, as you can see on here, where basically there'll be too many people and not enough food. Therefore, it leads to what we call these natural checks, which would be starvation, famine. Okay, and the population would be brought down naturally by the fact that lots of people starve to death. Right, not a cheery thought. But as I said, it was pretty much a very pessimistic point of view. Now, then we come to a bit of blue sky thinking, and Boserup was very much more blue sky, more positive in what she believed. Hence, she now becomes blue sky. And what she believed was actually, she totally disagreed with Malthus. She believed that actually, right, now natural checks would not occur, and population growth would actually drive human beings, human ingenuity, human inventiveness to come up with new ways and inventions to ensure that there's always going to be sufficient resources for the population. Okay, so her key sort of phrase was agricultural intensification, which basically means that over time you might have the same amount of land, but through improvements in technology, be able to grow more food from it through things like fertilizers, pesticides, and so on. So she actually believed that population was a good thing. Population growth was a good thing because it would drive the human race forward, lead to new inventions and new ingenuity. So clearly a lot more optimistic than Malthus. Okay. Now then, who is actually right then? Well, if we take Malthus first, then based on current school of thought, is that actually is incorrect, because food production has kept in line with population growth. However, obviously the distribution of food is not equal on the planet. We have enough food to feed everybody on the planet. However, unfortunately, there are some countries in the world that have lots, other countries have little. We still do have famine and starvation. But fundamentally, at this moment in time, Malthus is incorrect. We've managed to keep up. Boserup, well, Boserup, you could argue that she's correct at this point in time. However, maybe now we're beginning to experience some of the problems that human ingenuity is beginning to impact on the environment. Because obviously, as we put more fertilizers, more pesticides into the environment to grow more food to meet our demands, that is beginning to have significant environmental damage. So at the moment, we might be keeping up with population, food production is keeping up with population growth. Long term, it may no longer be sustainable. Yes, that dreaded S word popping up there. Only time will tell. So, how would this fit in then to exam questions? Well, you might get a question a little bit like this. Now, this is a nice question off the foundation paper because it's actually naming the theory that it wants you to talk about. Okay, so explain the relationship between population and food supply. So you need to talk about what Malthus believed, that basically population growth would outstrip food production. It would lead to these natural checks, which would mean that the population would sort of be reduced through starvation, through famine. If you can try to sort of bring in these key ideas of exponential growth and arithmetic growth as well, the examiner's going to love it. Right? you're going to be very, very close to maximising 4 out of 4. So that's an example of the foundation paper. Higher paper, people. Okay. This time, notice, again, it's giving you the theories, Malthus and Boserup, but you need to talk about and explain the differences in what they believed. Okay. So, 2 key concepts. Malthus was talking about this natural checks, because population would outstrip food production, whereas Boserup had a very different view. She believed in this idea of agricultural intensification. The fact that as population grows, we get to squeaky bum time. However, human ingenuity would save the day. Okay? Necessity is the mother of invention. When the backs are against the wall, humans would always come through at the end of the day. However, you might get a bit of a curveball question, one that you're not quite anticipating, but you could still use Malthus and Boserup to answer it. So, an example of a curveball question. Explain one advantage and one disadvantage to a country with rapid population growth. Now, notice there's no mention of Malthus or Boserup within that answer. However, it is talking about advantages and disadvantages, so you could talk about, the fact that an advantage would be this idea that more population leads to greater inventions, ingenuity, technological advancements. You could quite easily talk about it there. Yeah? So we've got a positive, but then for your disadvantage, you could also talk about this idea that I've just talked about on the previous slide, that as we farm more intensively, it's beginning to have environmental damage. So as we try and feed our rapid population, it's damaging the environment, and long term it's unsustainable. And who's to say in 20-30 years in this particular country, in any country, you may no longer be able to feed those people because you've destroyed the environment. So that's a very quick overview of 2 theories, Malthus and Boserup. Thank you.